The plains had a way of making silence feel heavy. Cal Rourke liked it that way. At dawn, the ranch was nothing but wind moving through dry grass, the distant creak of fencing, and the soft shuffle of cattle drifting toward the water troughs. No traffic. No neon suburb glow. Just land that still belonged to itself. Cal stood with a mug of black coffee warming his hands, watching the horizon brighten into pale gold. His breath fogged briefly, then vanished. Behind him, the ranch's old turbine blades turned lazily, feeding power into the off-grid system he'd built piece by piece over 20 years. A man didn't survive out here by trusting anyone else's infrastructure. He trusted dirt, steel, concrete, things that didn't change their minds. The gate at the main road was one of those things, or it was supposed to be. It wasn't fancy. A heavy steel swing gate, reinforced after the first suburban expansion pushed too close. A keypad lock sat on the post beside it, outdated but reliable, paired with a thick analog padlock as backup. 2 locks. 2 truths. Cal finished his coffee and headed toward the fence line, boots crunching over gravel. He checked the north pasture first, eyes scanning for anything off. Cattle were calm. Water lines held pressure. No drone activity. Good. Then the gate sensor chimed. A single soft beep in Cal's earpiece. He stopped. That sound didn't belong in the morning. He turned slowly toward the road. A vehicle was approaching, smooth, silent, the kind that didn't kick up dust the way real trucks did. It glided like it thought the earth owed it courtesy. An HOA rover. Cal's jaw tightened. He watched it roll up to the gate, stopping with perfect alignment. No hesitation. No uncertainty. The rover's front panel lit up. A scanner extended. Cal started walking, fast but controlled. The keypad wasn't supposed to respond to anyone but him. The lock required a deed key handshake, tied to county registry codes older than the suburb itself. The rover beeped once. Then the padlock clicked. Cal froze mid-step. The gate latch released with a polite mechanical sigh, like it had been convinced rather than forced. And the gate began to swing open. His stomach went cold. No, he muttered. The rover eased forward, passing through as if it had done it 100 times. Behind it, a calf startled, bolting sideways. The herd shifted uneasily, hooves scraping dirt. Cal reached the road just as the rover stopped again, now comfortably inside his property. The window lowered. A woman sat behind the wheel, posture straight, hair perfectly styled despite the wind. She wore a crimson jacket with a silver compliance emblem pinned to the chest. Her smile was practiced. Not friendly. Professional. "Good morning," she said, voice smooth as glass. Cal stared at her. That gate was locked. She blinked slowly, like she was humoring him. "Yes. I noticed." "You opened it." "I accessed it," she corrected, lifting a slim tablet from her lap. "Under civic authority." Cal stepped closer, boots planted hard in the dirt. "This is private ranch land." The woman's smile widened a fraction. "Mr. Rourke, I'm Marla Vexley, Compliance Director for Horizon Crest Community Standards." Cal didn't offer his hand. "I don't care what title you printed for yourself," he said. "You drove through my gate." Marla glanced past him at the cattle, then back as if she were inspecting a messy yard. "There have been reports of obstruction along this route." "What route?" She tilted her head. "The emergency access corridor." Cal let out a short, humorless laugh. "This is a ranch road." Marla's tablet chimed softly. She tapped it once. "According to municipal planning overlays, this road intersects with provisional safety infrastructure." Cal's eyes narrowed. "You mean your shortcut?" Her expression didn't change, but something sharpened beneath it. "We mean community safety." Cal leaned closer, lowering his voice. "My cattle don't care about your community. My water lines run under that road. You come barreling through here, you spook the herd, you break fencing." "We're not barreling," she said calmly. "You're trespassing." Marla's gaze stayed steady. "Trespassing implies unlawful entry. This is an inspection." Cal pointed back at the swinging gate. That lock didn't give you permission. Marla finally stepped out of the Rover, boots spotless, as if she'd never walked on real ground in her life. She stood beside him, looking up at the open sky like it belonged to her too. "Mr. Rourke," she said, voice softening into something almost sympathetic, "you're bordering a growing district. Horizon Crest has obligations. Evacuation planning. Utility verification. Emergency response mapping." Cal's hands clenched. "You didn't call ahead. We don't require notice for compliance operations." Cal's laugh came again, sharper. "Compliance operations." Marla's smile returned. "You'll find cooperation makes these matters easier." Cal stared at her, then at the gate. The padlock hung open. Not broken. Opened. That was the part that made his skin crawl. He crouched, inspecting it. No scratches. No forced entry. The lock had obeyed. Cal rose slowly. "How did you do it?" Marla's eyes flickered with something like amusement. "Technology has advanced," she said simply. "The community invests in secure access solutions." Cal's voice dropped. "That's my property." Marla tapped her tablet again and a small printer on her belt whirred, producing a thin sheet of paper. She held it out. "Notice of Community Safety Inspection," she read aloud. "Failure to comply may result in penalties." Cal didn't take it. The paper fluttered between them. Finally, Marla tucked it against the gatepost as if posting a flyer. "I'll be returning," she said. Cal's eyes snapped back to hers. "Don't." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "You don't want to be flagged as uncooperative, Mr. Rourke. These systems, they don't like resistance." Cal stepped closer until there was barely space between them. "Then tell your system this," he said quietly. "This ranch isn't part of your suburb. Not now. Not ever." Marla studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded, almost respectfully. "We'll see what the registry decides." She climbed back into the Rover. The vehicle turned smoothly, exiting the way it came, leaving the gate swinging behind it like a door left open on purpose. Cal watched until the Rover disappeared into the distant haze of Horizon Crest's perimeter. Only then did he move. He ran to the fence line where the calf had bolted. Wire had snapped. A young calf stood trembling, tangled in loose strands. "Easy," Cal murmured, working quickly to free it. The animal's sides heaved. Cal's hands were steady, but inside, something had shifted. The gate wasn't just a gate anymore. It was a question. He walked back toward the post, staring at the lock. 2 locks. 2 truths. And somehow, the world outside had learned how to rewrite both. By the time the sun climbed fully above the plains, Cal's tablet chimed. A new notification. Civic compliance citation. Unauthorized obstruction of safety inspection. Cal read it once. Then again. His grip tightened until the screen creaked faintly. The silence of the plains returned, but it no longer felt peaceful. It felt like the moment before something breaks. Cal didn't sleep much after the gate incident. He lay in the dark listening to the ranch breathe, turbines sighing, metal cooling, distant hoofsteps shifting in the pasture. Every sound carried a question now. What else can they open? What else can they name theirs? Before sunrise, he was already outside with tools laid across the tailgate of his truck. He swapped the keypad's power feed, pulled the smart module, and replaced it with a blunt, old-fashioned mechanical latch. Then he added a second chain, thick enough to moor a boat. Analog didn't negotiate. Still, he couldn't shake the memory of that padlock releasing like it had been asked politely. Cal drove to the county office after morning checks, dust trailing behind him like a warning flag. The building sat squat and sun-bleached beside a strip of solar canopies, its front doors guarded by a security kiosk that looked newer than the town itself. Inside, the air smelled of recycled coolness and printer toner. A clerk behind a counter glanced up, saw his hat and sun-cracked face, and offered a tired smile. "Mr. Rourke," she said. "You hear about the complaint? You read it?" Cal asked. "I received it," she corrected, nodding toward a wall screen. "Whether anyone reads anything anymore depends on what the system decides is relevant." Cal leaned closer. I want to talk to a person. She lowered her voice. We are people. We're just not allowed to be the ones who decide. The screen displayed his case file in neat boxes. His name. Parcel number. A map overlay with bright lines that hadn't existed last week. See that? The clerk said, tapping the edge of the display. Your access road is tagged. Tagged as what? Cal asked, though he already felt the answer forming like grit in his teeth. She hesitated, then read it anyway. Provisional Emergency Access Corridor. Cal stared. That's not a thing. It is if the municipal AI flags it, she said. And once it flags it, the HOA gets a lane. A lane through my gate. The clerk's face tightened, sympathy and fear sharing space. It'll tell you this is for safety and planning. It'll tell you the community needs it. The wording always sounds reasonable. Cal pressed a palm flat against the counter, steadying himself. Who approved it? Her eyes flicked to a camera above the screen. Don't make me answer that out loud. Cal understood. He breathed once, slow. Then give me a hearing. She shook her head slightly. The system schedules hearings automatically. When? Cal asked. Her fingers moved fast on the terminal. Not yet. Cal's laugh was short. Convenient. She slid him a printed slip with a case number and a link he already knew would lead to a dead end. Cal, she said quietly, using his first name like it was a kindness. Be careful. They don't fight with fists. They fight with forms. He left with the paper in his pocket and a pressure behind his ribs that didn't belong to the wind. By noon the ranch felt different, like it had been placed under glass. Cal noticed it first when the birds went quiet. Then the hum arrived. A low, layered vibration, as if the air itself had become a machine. He looked up. A cluster of drones swept in from the suburb's direction, spreading out over his land with practiced coordination. Not the small delivery kind. These were sleek, angular, with sensor pods rotating like eyes. They didn't hover in place. They moved in patterns. Mapping. Scanning. Tagging. Cal strode into the yard, wiping grease from his hands onto his jeans. The drones descended toward the pasture fence, tracing the lines with lasers so faint they looked like pale threads. The cattle noticed first. Heads lifted. Ears pivoted. A nervous ripple moved through the herd. Hey! Cal shouted, voice carrying across open land. Get off! A drone swung toward him. A speaker crackled, then delivered a voice that wasn't human, though it tried to sound like one. Compliance mapping in progress. Please remain calm. Cal's jaw tensed. You've got no right. This corridor is designated for civic safety review. Non-compliance will be recorded. The words were smooth, even gentle, like a lullaby meant to restrain you while someone emptied your pockets. Cal walked to the fence post and pulled out a small device from his tool belt, an old pulsometer he'd used years ago to scare off invasive trackers during a land survey project. He didn't want to destroy anything. He wanted them to leave. He aimed it toward the nearest drone and triggered a short burst. The drone jerked midair, its lights flickering, then it rose higher, wobbling as if offended. The entire swarm responded instantly, pulling back while recording from a safer altitude. The speaker returned. Hostile electromagnetic action detected. Incident logged. Cal stared up at them, chest rising. I'm defending my property, he called back. The speaker paused, just long enough to feel like a judgment. Property defense does not supersede civic operation. Then the drones resumed their sweep from above, out of reach, patient as vultures. Cal watched, helpless, as they traced his water lines and counted his cattle with thermal precision. Every pass felt like fingers rifling through drawers. When the swarm finally withdrew, the pasture looked the same, but Cal didn't. He felt recorded. Catalogued. Reduced to metrics. His tablet chimed before he even made it back to the house. A new citation. Then another. And another. He stood in the kitchen reading them, the light from the screen making his face look hollow. Unauthorized electromagnetic interference. Unregistered livestock heat signatures near community perimeter. Failure to maintain clear safety signage on provisional route. It went on, each one phrased as if he'd created the problem by existing. Then a new box appeared beneath his profile. Compliance score, 62. Cal blinked. What the hell is a compliance score? He didn't have to wait long to find out. That evening he placed an order for replacement fence wire and a valve assembly, parts he couldn't fabricate himself. The supplier's site spun, then delivered a blunt message. Service unavailable for your account status. He tried another vendor. Same. He called the feed store in town. A man answered, voice strained. Cal. I can't. What do you mean you can't? Cal asked. There was a pause filled with static and fear. My system says you're flagged. If I extend credit, it hits my rating. I'm sorry. Cal stared at the wall as if it could explain the new shape of the world. They turned my life into a number, he said, more to himself than to the phone. I don't make the rules, the man whispered. They do. By the time darkness settled, headlights approached the gate again. Cal stepped outside, hand resting near the chain he'd installed that morning. A familiar Rover stopped, its chassis spotless even under the ranch's dust. Marla Vexley stepped out as if she'd timed her entrance for maximum contrast. Her jacket was the same crimson. Her smile was sharper. You've had a busy day, she said. Cal didn't move. You sent drones. She lifted her tablet slightly. The system scheduled a mapping pass after your recorded hostility. Hostility, Cal repeated, tasting the word like poison. I told them to get off my land. Marla's eyes held his. And they documented your resistance. Which affects your status. Cal's voice stayed low. That's blackmail. It's accountability, she replied smoothly. And it's reversible. She stepped closer and held out a digital document on the screen. Corridor Partnership Agreement, she said. Sign it and your score stabilizes. Deliveries resume. Insurance stays intact. Everyone relaxes. Cal glanced at the screen without taking it. You're offering me my own life back in exchange for a shortcut. Marla's expression softened into something almost maternal. It's not a shortcut. It's planning. Progress. Safety. Cal's laugh was quieter this time, grim. You keep saying safety like it's a prayer. Marla leaned in slightly. Because it works. People hear it and they comply. That's how we prevent chaos. Cal looked past her at the dark pasture, where cattle shifted uneasy shadows. You want a road through here, he said. Admit it. Marla didn't deny it. She only said, the community is expanding. Your property is inconveniently placed. Cal's eyes narrowed. So you'll squeeze until I move. Marla's smile returned, polished and certain. I'm giving you an easier option, she said. But if you insist on being difficult, the system will handle it. And it won't be as gentle as I am. Cal stepped forward, close enough to see the faint reflection of himself in her tablet glass. Tell your system something, he said. I'm not moving. And you're not coming through my gate again. Marla's gaze flicked to the chain and latch, then back to his face, unbothered. We'll see, she said softly. She turned, climbed into the Rover, and drove away without looking back. Cal stood alone under the stars, listening to the turbines turn. His tablet chimed once more. Notice. Provisional corridor review scheduled. No date. No time. Just inevitability. Cal stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Out on the plains, the wind kept moving, indifferent. But Cal understood now. The HOA wasn't just annoying. It was an engine. And it had started to grind. Cal Rourke had spent his life fixing things. Engines. Pumps. Broken fence posts after storms. Problems were usually honest out here. Something failed, you repaired it. A storm didn't pretend it was helping you while tearing your roof away. Marla Vexley was different. She didn't arrive with violence. She arrived with language, with numbers, with systems that smiled while tightening. Cal understood something now. Arguing with her was like arguing with fog. You could shout all day and still end up soaked. So he stopped shouting. He started measuring. The next morning he drove to the far edge of town, past the last diner and the last solar canopy, to a trailer office that smelled like dust and old paper. A hand-painted sign read, Hollis Surveying. Boundaries settled since 2041. Inside, an elderly man sat behind a cluttered desk, magnifier perched on his forehead. His hands were stained with ink and sun. He looked up as Cal entered. "Well," the man said, voice gravelly. "Didn't think I'd see you in here unless the world was ending." "Feels close," Cal replied. The surveyor chuckled once. "That suburb pushing again." Cal didn't waste time. They tagged my ranch road as an emergency corridor. The humor left the old man's face. "Sit," he said. Cal Saturday. The man's name was Hollis Greer, one of the last county surveyors who still trusted physical markers more than municipal overlays. He pulled a drawer open and slid out a rolled map, edges yellowed. "Your deed line hasn't moved," Hollis said. "Not an inch. But the registry, that's another beast." Cal leaned forward. "Can they rewrite it?" Hollis exhaled. "They can try. They can bury you in classifications until people forget what's real." Cal's eyes sharpened. "Then I need proof that can't be edited." Hollis nodded slowly, as if he'd been waiting for that sentence. "Meet me at your south boundary at first light," he said. "Bring stakes. Bring patience." They walked the line the next morning. Hollis moved carefully, tapping the soil with a metal probe, listening for the dull kiss of buried survey pins. When he found one, he knelt like a man greeting an old friend. "There," he murmured. "Steel doesn't lie." Cal crouched beside him, brushing dirt away until the pin gleamed faintly. "That's my edge," Cal said. "That's your edge," Hollis confirmed. "Anyone crosses it, they're trespassing. No algorithm changes that." Cal stared across the road where the HOA rover had rolled through like it belonged. He stood. "Then I'm going to build something that doesn't care what they call it." Hollis raised an eyebrow. "What are you thinking?" Cal's voice was calm. "A wall. Not a fence. Not another lock. Not another argument. A physical fact." By afternoon, Cal's ranch yard looked like a construction site. He hauled in concrete forms, rebar cages, gravel, and a rented auger machine that growled like an animal. The plan wasn't complicated. It was deliberate. A line of bollards, thick cylinders of reinforced concrete, set along the inside of his property boundary. Spaced close enough that no vehicle could slip through, but wide enough for cattle and wildlife to pass safely. Cal sketched the spacing twice, then again. Engineering was the one language he trusted. Each bollard would be sunk deep, anchored with steel and poured heavy enough that even an autonomous rover couldn't shove it aside. He wasn't building out of spite. He was building out of necessity. At dawn on the third day, the first hole was drilled. The auger bit into the earth, pulling up dry soil and stone. Cal wiped sweat from his brow, shirt already dust-streaked. His neighbor, a rancher named Lyle Benton, drove up in an old truck that coughed smoke. He climbed out, watching the equipment. "You finally doing it," Lyle said. Cal didn't look up. "Doing what?" "Drawing a line they can't ignore." Cal paused, resting his hands on the auger handle. "They already ignored my locks." Lyle's mouth twisted. "Locks are polite. Concrete isn't." Cal nodded once. Lyle leaned against his truck. "You know they'll throw a fit." "They've been throwing fits," Cal replied. "This is just heavier." By midday, the first rebar cage stood upright in the hole like the skeleton of something unbreakable. Cal poured concrete slowly, making sure it filled every space, no air pockets, no weakness. The wet cement smelled sharp, alive. He worked without music, without distraction. Every movement felt like reclaiming something. When the first bollard set, it stood waist-high, grey, and blunt. A statement. Then came the second. The third. By the time the sun dropped low, a row of concrete pillars marched along the ranch road, some still curing, others tall enough to cast long shadows. Cal stood back, breathing hard. For the first time in days, the pressure in his chest eased slightly. The next morning, Headlights arrived. Marla Vexley's Rover stopped outside the gate, as if offended by the new landscape. Cal was waiting. She stepped out slowly, eyes traveling along the bollard line. Her smile didn't appear this time. "What is this?" she asked. Cal wiped his hands on a rag. "Boundary enforcement." Marla's gaze sharpened. "You can't do this." Cal tilted his head. "I can. I did." She walked closer, heels crunching gravel. "These are obstructive structures. Visual blight. Safety hazards." Cal's voice stayed level. "They're on my land." Marla lifted her tablet, scanning. "The corridor designation doesn't exist on my deed," Cal interrupted. Her eyes flashed. "You're interfering with civic planning." Cal stepped forward, calm as stone. "You're interfering with my ranch." Marla's lips pressed together. "This won't stand." Cal gestured toward Hollis's survey stakes, bright flags marking each boundary point. "County pins. Verified yesterday. Measured twice." Marla glanced at them, then back at him. "You're escalating." Cal let out a quiet breath. "No. I'm ending it." Marla's voice hardened. "The system will respond." Cal met her stare. "Let it." For a moment, silence stretched between them, filled only by wind and the distant lowing of cattle. Then Marla's expression shifted into something colder. "You think concrete solves everything," she said softly. "It solves one thing," Cal replied. "You driving through my gate." Perimeter. Cal knew Marla Vexley was already planning how to make the system hit harder. Concrete was only the beginning. Marla's smile returned, but it was thin. "We'll see." She turned sharply, climbed into her Rover, and drove away. Cal watched until the dust settled. He knew it wasn't over. But now, the next move would have to meet something real. That afternoon, the sound of engines returned, different this time. Not Marla's Rover. A larger autonomous vehicle approached, sleek and white, branded with Horizon Crest municipal markings. It didn't slow. Cal's stomach tightened. The vehicle rolled straight toward the bollard line as if expecting it to dissolve into permission. At the last second, its sensors hesitated. Too late. The front bumper clipped the nearest pillar with a sickening crunch. Metal folded. The vehicle shuddered, stopped dead, one wheel spinning uselessly in the dirt. Cal stood still, heart pounding, watching the machine's hazard lights blink like confused eyes. A drone rose from its roof, camera swiveling. Cal lifted his own handheld recorder, capturing everything. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. "Unauthorized incursion." The drone hovered, then transmitted. Cal's tablet chimed seconds later. "Incident logged. Obstruction damage claim pending." He stared at the message. They were going to blame him. Of course they were. But now he had footage. He had sensors. He had concrete pillars that didn't care about polite wording. Cal looked down the line of bollards stretching across his boundary, curing under the sun. For the first time, the ranch felt less like a target. It felt like a fortress. And somewhere beyond the suburbs bright. The notice arrived without ceremony. No envelope. No knock. No official voice. Just a silent update on Cal's tablet, blinking like an accusation. Emergency compliance hearing. Scheduled. No time listed. No courthouse address. Only a link. Cal stared at it in the kitchen while the ranch wind rattled the window frame. "They don't even have the decency to tell you where," Lyle Benton muttered from the table. Cal's neighbor had come by at dawn after hearing about the crashed autonomous vehicle. Word traveled fast out here, even with the suburb trying to control the feed. Cal's fingers hovered over the link. "They want it automated," Cal said. Lyle snorted. "Of course. Machines don't sympathize." Cal didn't respond. Sympathy wasn't what he needed. He needed leverage. He stood and walked to the back room where his grandfather's old safe sat half buried in the wall. It wasn't connected to anything. No smart lock. No registry handshake. Just steel and a key that turned with stubborn honesty. Inside were papers most people would have thrown away decades ago. Original deed copies. Survey maps drawn by hand. A brittle folder stamped with county seals older than Horizon Crest itself. Cal pulled them out carefully, laying them on the table like relics. Lyle leaned closer. You think paper beats their system? Cal's eyes stayed on the inked boundary lines. It has to, he said. Because paper can't be edited from a suburb office. That afternoon, Hollis Greer arrived with his own bundle, affidavits, certified boundary confirmations, physical copies of the county pin registry. He set them down with a grunt. You're going to shove reality in their face, Hollis said. Cal nodded. They've been living in overlays. Hollis tapped the documents. This is bedrock. By nightfall, Cal had assembled a chain of proof so solid it felt heavy in his hands. Witness statements from neighboring ranchers. Footage of repeated trespass. Sensor logs from the Bollard collision. Every piece had dates, signatures, and physical seals. No algorithm could quietly rewrite ink. When the hearing link activated the next morning, Cal sat at his kitchen table with the ranch behind him and the documents spread like armor. The screen flickered. A sterile interface appeared. Municipal Compliance Tribunal. Session start. No judge. No jury. Just a pulsing emblem and a synthetic voice. Case 7-44B. Horizon Crest Community Standards vs. Rourke Parcel 19. Cal's jaw tightened. The voice continued. Charges: obstruction of emergency corridor, destruction of civic property, refusal of compliance mapping. Lyle stood behind Cal, arms crossed. Hollis sat nearby, silent as stone. Then Marla Vexley appeared on the screen. Perfect lighting. Perfect posture. She smiled as if attending a meeting, not trying to dismantle a man's life. Good morning, Mr. Rourke, she said. Cal didn't return it. Marla's voice carried practiced concern. This is unfortunate. It didn't have to escalate. Cal leaned forward. You drove through my gate. Marla tilted her head slightly. The corridor designation grants authorized access. The tribunal voice chimed. Designation confirmed. Provisional emergency status active. Cal's hands clenched. Hollis spoke for the first time, leaning into frame. That designation was applied without county board approval. Marla's smile didn't falter. The municipal AI is empowered to classify routes under operational necessity. Cal stared at her. Operational necessity for what? Marla's eyes held his. For community safety. There it was again. That word. Polished and weaponized. The tribunal voice continued. Evidence submission window open. Marla's screen filled with drone footage. Cal firing the pulsometer, the autonomous vehicle crumpled against the bollard. She spoke smoothly. Mr. Rourke has demonstrated hostile resistance toward civic infrastructure. His concrete obstructions pose danger to emergency response. Cal's laugh was short. Emergency response, he repeated. That vehicle wasn't an ambulance. Marla lifted her tablet slightly. It was a scheduled safety transit unit. Hollis's eyes narrowed. Scheduled, he murmured. Cal's gaze snapped up. That's your mistake, Cal said quietly. Marla blinked. Excuse me. Cal clicked his own upload. The screen shifted. His footage played, the autonomous vehicle approaching at speed, no sirens, no emergency markings beyond suburb branding. Time stamped. Logged. Then sensor data appeared, showing the vehicle's route programming. A line of code scrolled. Test run. Corridor optimization. Lyle let out a low whistle. Marla's expression tightened for the first time. Cal leaned closer to the camera. You called it emergency access, he said. Your own machine calls it a test. The tribunal voice paused. A longer pause than before. Contradiction detected. Clarification required. Marla's smile returned quickly, strained at the edges. Operational testing is part of preparedness. Cal shook his head. No. Preparedness doesn't require breaking my fence. Preparedness doesn't laser cut my water lines. Marla's eyes flashed. There is no proof of sabotage. Cal clicked again. Another upload. Infrared footage from the night his pump failed. A service vehicle's silhouette near the line. Tire tread match. Time stamp. Hollis added calmly, and witness statements from 3 neighboring landowners who saw HOA units on his property after dark. The tribunal voice chimed again. Physical affidavit seals detected. Chain of custody verified. Marla went still. Cal felt something shift in the air, like a machine encountering an object it couldn't categorize away. The tribunal interface flickered. Automated adjudication suspended. Human oversight required. Lyle's eyebrows rose. Did we just break it? Hollis's mouth twitched. We reminded it humans still exist. Marla's composure cracked into something colder. This isn't over, she said softly. Cal met her stare. It is for my gate. The screen dimmed briefly, then returned with a new message. Investigation initiated. HOA operational authority under review. Marla's jaw tightened. For a heartbeat, she looked less like a compliance director and more like someone realizing control could slip. Then her smile returned, sharper than ever. You think you've won, she said. But you've only delayed the inevitable. Cal's voice stayed even. Then you'll have to come through concrete to reach me. Marla's eyes held his, then she disconnected. The tribunal ended. Silence filled the kitchen. Outside, the ranch was unchanged, grass, wind, cattle moving slow. But Cal knew something had happened. He'd forced the system to pause. That night, the ranch sensors trembled. A faint vibration near the bollard line. Cal grabbed his flashlight and rifle, running into the dark. The concrete pillars stood pale under moonlight. And hovering near one of them was a drone, different from the mapping swarm. Smaller. Armed with a cutting torch. The flame hissed blue. Cal raised the flashlight beam. Drop it, he shouted. The drone jerked, torch sputtering. A voice crackled through its speaker. Panicked. Please, please don't shoot. I'm just hired. Cal froze. Not Marla's voice. A subcontractor. Who sent you? Cal demanded. The drone wobbled. They said it was authorized. Horizon Crest Development Division. They said the rancher was a problem. Cal's blood ran cold. Development. Not safety. Not emergency. Something bigger. Cal lowered the rifle slightly, eyes narrowing. Tell them, he said quietly, this problem doesn't move. The drone lifted abruptly, fleeing into the night. Cal stood among the bollards, wind brushing past him. The pillars cast long shadows like silent guards. Above the distant suburb lights, Horizon Crest glowed sterile and bright. Marla Vexley wasn't finished. But neither was Cal Rourke. And now, the fight wasn't only about a gate. It was about who got to decide what was real.